I was a former
Yes.
head of the department. That was 16 years ago.
Oh,
Yes.
That was 16 years ago. And
you
I
must
came
have been a
back,
young
I
young
returned
man.
back to my country. And soon after I returned back, I was appointed as the Dean of the Faculty of Tourism and Hotel Management in Hilwan University, which is the first being established in the Middle East and the Arabian area. That was 65 years ago, this school in Egypt. And
My goodness.
yes, and shortly after, I promoted to the title and the post of the vice president of the university, and then I became the president of Hilwan University, which is one of the three largest university in Egypt, with a total number of students around 220,000 students.
My goodness.
Again, 220,000. I repeat the number. And
That's amazing.
And I finished my term just about 1.5 years ago. And I'm now the counselor to the Minister of Higher Education. And I'm also his counselor to the European University branches in Egypt.
Amazing.
Here, some European University branches in Egypt, from UK, from Germany, from...
To Australia.
No, we don't have Australia so far.
Well, you have to come and visit.
Yeah, yes. Why not? Why not? Why not? Anyway, I would like actually to welcome you. And I'm really pleased from the generous invitation from my colleagues, Dr. Magda and Dr. Hafiz, to join this webinar and or workshop, whatever you like to mention the name. And I'm here. I'm trying again to get to a video system. Then we can see each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hafiz, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much. We are very glad that you are able to participate with us in this session, and we highly appreciate it.
I don't know what's wrong with the video system, but I am thinking now.
Thank you very much. So let me show them.
I don't know what's wrong with this.
We'll wait maybe 5 minutes and then we'll start, inshallah.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm always respecting the time.
Yes, Prof. Majid Najam is the one who started the tourism department here in Sultan Qaboos University. And he's taught me actually many courses. And he was not only as a teacher or as a former head, he's like a father to all the students in that batch. And we highly appreciate what he did for the department and for us actually. And alhamdulillah, he's still in a contact with us. And last year he visited us in actually not last year, this year.
Early this year, February.
Yeah, he visited us here in
early February.
Yes.
Well, I'll be very interested for any comments that you have, Professor.
I will indeed.
On my presentation.
I'm really excited to actually listen to your lecture today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I should change the title. My title's wrong. I'll have to.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I've probably got too many slides, Hafid, but so if I'm, maybe if getting towards the end, just remind me
Okay.
of the time, and I'll.
Yes. Okay, I think we should start now. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and good day for everyone. On behalf of the Tourism Department at Sultan Qaboos University, we would like to welcome all of you in this webinar. And today we have a very important topic. As you can see, it's how to design a tourism experience. As you know, tourism experience is one of the crucial elements for any tourism destinations. This enables them to increase the overall customer satisfaction or tourist satisfaction. This will lead the tourists to spend more money and more time in the tourism destination, which is lead to more economic benefits. It's also help the tourists to have memorable experience, memorable as well as enjoyable time at the tourism destination. This will also enable the tourists to recommend or maybe a repeat visit to the tourism destination, as well as recommend others as a word of mouth to visit this destination. So today we'll have a very important session with Prof. Noel Scott. Prof. Noel Scott, he is actually a well-known tourism scholar. As a professor, he is from Australia. He is currently as adjunct professor in tourism in the Center of Tourism Research at Edith Cowan University in Western Australia, as well as the Sustainable Research Center in the University of Sunshine Coast in Queensland. He actually also was working in the Tourism Queensland before, and also he worked in among the top university in the world in the tourism, in Queensland University, as well as Griffith University, where I met them at that time, 2009 actually. Also, he's also a visiting professor at Mataram University in Indonesia, as well as Tyler's University in Malaysia. He has research interests including tourism experience, destination management, and marketing. He has actually more than 300 academic publications, including 2 books. Not 2 books, more than I think 21 books. And I had the pleasure to publish 3 articles with them, as well as many book chapters with them. And we have one co-edited book together. He also has one of his recent book is about experience design. And this is why we actually invited him to provide us with this online workshop or this lecture. He has almost 2,000 citation. I don't know if he recognized this or not, but he has almost 20,000 citation, and he's also in the editorial board of 10 top journal in tourism. Without overdue, Prof. Noel, we welcome you, and we have and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Good. So, yes, well, it's wonderful to again be talking to people in Oman. In fact, the last time I was in Oman, I think on the 17th of February 2020, perhaps just before COVID, and I was in Nizwa, I think.
Yes.
And my wife rang me and said, "Oh, I have to go home because there's a thing called COVID." And I said, "Don't be silly." But I did go home and didn't travel for another year and a half. So the world has changed a lot since then. But I do understand that tourism in Oman has recovered and is developing, which is wonderful. And I think from my time in Oman and what I know about it, it's got tremendous opportunities as I think a responsible tourism destination. It's different perhaps from some of the other countries nearby, and I think that's a good thing. What we're going to talk about today is something which I'm quite interested in. It's how to design tourism experiences. I'll share my screen, see how I can do that.
Yeah.
So now you should see my screen.
Yes.
And so, oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I have to do this.
Yes.
Okay, so you should see my screen now. Great. Okay, so I want to start by well, as overview, I want to provide some examples of experiences to get a handle on what we're talking about, and then think more generally about the issue of innovation. That is, how do we develop new experiences, not just from the view of the content, the experience itself, but to think about it from the human perspective. Who are the people who are going to develop, who are innovative and can develop these experiences, and how do you go about it? And then I'll make some suggestions perhaps for you to think about. That photo on the right, this is something that I started when I was in Oman. When I travel to different countries, I get dressed up in the clothes of the country. So this is from China, dressed up as a scholar in China, and to me, it's an interesting idea connected to an experience. It's about not just seeing things, but actually being involved in some way in the tourism experience. And so for me, this idea of wearing the clothes and becoming becoming an ancient tourism scholar is a bit of fun that I like to do. So to begin, experiences are valuable. So we like to think about the progression of economic products from uh, staple products like rice or sugar through to branded products, through to perhaps services where you start to have other people being involved in providing services to you. And then later, probably since about the 1990s, people have been talking about this idea of experiences where you do more than have people providing services. You're actually involved in the activity, and you're involved mentally and physically, and perhaps even emotionally in doing things. Now, there are certain sort of characteristics of experiences, or let's say that's not quite true. There's certain characteristics of experiences which people value. Okay, and they are one of them is uniqueness or novelty. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a photo of some people in the Philippines in a restaurant, and they are eating their food with their feet in the water. Okay, well, is that unusual? I suppose it is, and it's certainly something that you might remember. Of course, this idea of providing people with experiences is not new. And you can see here a photo of a family with Mickey Mouse from Disneyland. So that's interesting because firstly, it's remembering the experience, memorabilia, but it's also about it's a way of demonstrating the story or the the story content of an experience. So the about Mickey Mouse, and they want to experience the fun and excitement of meeting Mickey Mouse and visiting Disneyland. And for them, the visit is not just about that place. It's also about all the stories that they have listened to or seen on television or seen on movies about Mickey Mouse and Disneyland. So there's more to them going there than just the actual interactions that they have on site. There's all these memories and things which are become part of their experience of Disneyland. And so for the children, that fun and excitement and stories provides lots of value, which they will remember. And for the mother, she wants the kids to enjoy themselves and for the family to experience things together. So the experience provides value, different value to each one of the participants. And it involves these things which you might call symbols, things which are important in your mind that you actually can see or experience, such as Mickey Mouse. So the idea of Disneyland is a classic example of providing experiences for people because it involves novelty or uniqueness, some story content, ability to provide memorabilia or those memories, symbols, and especially it provides value relevant to the customer. But of course, there's other types of experiences. So here you might see a luxury spa. And I think, there's this idea that there's different types of experiences, and relaxation and indulgence is a personal indulgence is another type of valued experience for people. So many different types of experiences. Also, when we think about an experience, let's say going to Disneyland or having a spa, we can think about a whole series of different steps that have to be connected together. So from the customer's point of view, that's the red line. The customer begins by imagining what this experience will be like. They might do some plannings, and certainly, this is really important, they will have a goal, something that they want to achieve personally from the experience, whether it is relaxation or the ability to talk to people about unique experiences or to spend time with the family. Those goals are really important to understand. Then, of course, they make their booking or they actually begin the experience, and it will involve a series of different parts. Let's call them events or scenes, if you like to think of the experience as a movie. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the customer then leaves, and as they're leaving, they might have some immediate reaction. Yeah, they're satisfied. But then they will have developed memories which they can recollect, and those memories provide when they're in the event or when they're actually having the experience, that is having an experience, but then you can remember it afterwards. So that's the remembered experience. You can, in some ways, re-experience something that's happened in the past with your memories. So that's the customer side. But of course, the business has to, you're providing these experiences as a business. So every business has to make money. So you require the backroom functions, operations, finance, human resources, marketing, and then what they call the servicescape. The servicescape is that part of the business which interacts with the customer. And the idea is that you help to create the customer experience through those interactions. And those interactions include activities that tourists or visitors do, interactions with the staff, very important, and then tangible things that the customers can interact with, or the perhaps the design of the servicescape, the layout, the theme is important. We'll come back to that. But there are tangible features, and then there are intangible features such as music, the ambience of the servicescape, and so on. Okay, so when we're designing experiences, we are trying to create strong, positive, remembered experiences, memories, through influencing the customer journey by the operations of the tourism business, perhaps before people come, the marketing and so on they do, and then through the actual interaction with the customer and the servicescape. And all of those things can be changed. You can, the idea of design, it's a multi-dimensional thing that you can change the way the staff interact, the activities people interact, the tourists interact with, the design and layout of the building or the servicescape, and as well as and other intangible things such as the music and other ways that you try and influence customers. So that's really complicated. And experience design is difficult to do. Let's have a look at some examples. Here, this is one that I've visited with Dr. Hafford. So this is in Nizwa. This was an old house, and it's been transformed into a heritage inn or heritage hotel accommodation. So the building is authentic, and it's been redeveloped in a reasonably authentic style. So it's not like a modern hotel, but and the area surrounding this hotel is all old houses. And at night, it's very atmospheric. You feel as if you're in a history story. So I think this was a type of experience that it's more than just having a bed and staying in a hotel. It's, in some way, this hotel is the servicescape in which people, the customers, have experiences. And I've been thinking about this. I think that the people who might be interested in coming to this hotel would perhaps have some things that they value or they want to, the reason, their goal. Why are these people coming? Well, I think that idea of being an adventurer or an explorer or a person who's interested in authentic historic experiences is part of or is one of the main reasons why people go to this hotel. And if you know that, and you know that there may be other things that you could offer people that are also authentic and novel and related to history and heritage, then perhaps they are experiences that you could develop and offer to these visitors. Again, with Dr. Hafet, I went to a beautiful mountain, old mountain agricultural town. And it was pretty much falling down until one of the residents decided that he would create a guest house, let's say. So he renovated it, and it's been incredibly successful. And so this place is interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, again, it shows that authenticity and novelty with a heritage theme. So a theme is a way of describing the type of experience. It could be cultural theme. It could be a heritage theme. It could be a, I don't know, an adventure theme. There are many different ways many different themes that people are interested in, a bit like movies. So if you imagine a visit to this town as a movie, this town could become, it's a heritage theme, but it could be also have a romantic theme to it. You could present this village as a romantic place for couples to come, and you would give them experiences which have a sort of element of romance to them. So in some ways, the village is like the service-scape. It's the physical or the tangible elements. And on top of that, you create the experience for your visitors. The things I want you to think about is this idea of a person's identity. Why does a mother want to take their children to a theme park or to Disneyland? Well, a mother is a caring person, and she wants her children, she wants a strong bond with the children. She wants them to enjoy it. And if she is able to provide a happy family experience, she knows that her children, she will be fulfilling her identity as a mother. Okay. So how would you describe the identity of a person who wants to stay in the Niswa Heritage Inn? What type of self-identity do they have? Well, what's the self-identity motivation that leads them to want to stay in a heritage hotel? Is it about that they feel or they want to be explorers, seeking new and interesting things in exotic places? Perhaps. Whatever it is, you should try and understand that if you're trying to develop experiences. Another thing that is very important for when you are creating an experience is to think about your experience as a story. And in any place like Nizwa in Oman, there are 1,000 stories that you can create for visitors. This is when I was in Lombok. I was talking to the local people. This is in Indonesia, and they told me the story about the explosion of the eruption of the volcano. And this eruption was so strong that it changed the climate of the world. Very interesting story, but it is in some ways scientific. That story doesn't connect strongly to me. So what stories can we tell that have more of a human connection? Okay. Well, there may be stories about local people and how people lived in Lombok. One example that we came up with was weaving. So many of the traditionally people in Lombok, the women will weave ikat. It's a sort of a traditional cloth, and that would be dyed, colored using different natural dyes. And so there's an interesting human story about how my mother made dye for her ikat. And so that would be about telling the story of making the dye, which has a sort of a scientific basis, but it's also at a more personal and individual level. Similarly, you could tell the story of the local cultural and how people would be fighting, or it was sort of more like sports, but they would be doing stick fighting. And you could describe that in terms of how people hid and what they did, or you could allow people to practice, or, with some super. That would be more involving, and that would allow people to do something rather than just seeing something. So you could have as part of your tour or a part of a visit to the village, you could allow people and teach them how to win at stick fighting. So that's, again, as I said, moving from learning something or seeing something to actually doing something. Or perhaps you could, one of the, this happens in Oman. I was very impressed when I visited some places. I talked to some local business people. But when we were having the conversation, we sat down. We all sat down. We had some dates. We had some tea, and we had a bit of a discussion. Now, for many people in Oman, that's quite a common, it's the usual thing that everyone does. But for some people from overseas, it's very unusual. So there are many things that you can tell people about, which for you in Oman are very ordinary, everyday activities, but which for people from overseas are strange and unique and very interesting. So there are many stories in a place, but you need to think about them from the local perspective, but also from the visitor perspective to find them. So what makes a really good experience? Well, you need to know your customer. You need to know about what they know about the place. Do they know Mickey Mouse? Do they know anything about Oman? What do they know? Have they been before? that will affect how unique and novel some of the experiences are. What is their goal? And that's a goal. By that I mean, what is it about them, that customer, that they find that creates value in the visit? That can be very difficult. And how important is it? Who are they traveling with? How much time they have, and so on. But there's lots of things that you need to know about the customer, and then you need to know about the place. You need to know its landscape and history and culture and stories and animals and plants and infrastructure. They're what I would call resources. They're not the experience. They are the things that you use to create, or as part of your service-scape, to create an experience. And then you have to develop the actual on-site interactions. So you're thinking about especially the activities that people are going to undertake, and they should be more doing rather than seeing. There should be interactions, not just talking, but interactions between the business or the tour guide or the experience provider and the customers, so that both are involved. And you have to also think about the problems that people might have and how to overcome them. So that leads to the immediate outcomes of the experience. Surprise, perhaps. Oh, I didn't know that. That's really unusual. Achievement of a goal. I feel like I have been exploring this place, and that suits my identity. And then that usually should create, if you can do these things, you should create. The longer your positive emotion, the more you remember your experience. So understanding a person's goal, surprising them, allowing them to achieve that goal produces positive emotions. Positive emotions create memory. So your memory is then, you have had a memorable experience. And that happens at the site, at the place where the experience is taking place, but also afterwards. You may have read a little bit about Pine and Gilmore. Pine and Gilmore wrote a book about experiences. So it's 20 years old now or so. And they talked about different types of experiences: entertainment, education, experiences, emotion. Those things, I think, are like themes. They're the type of themes that you can have in an experience. So an experience is your activities on site, the type of theme that you have, and how does that match what the customer wants. And those things create emotion, memory, goal achievement, and attention. And so I like to think of experiences as basically related to how much of these things you can create. If you can capture people's attention, allow them to achieve a goal, hence create strong positive emotions, you have a strong memory, and you have therefore created a memorable experience. Let's look at some examples. Here's a place, you may have heard of the movie The Hobbit. Well, this place is like a stage. It's like going to a movie. So the people who would come to this place are very interested in the movie The Hobbit, and this place allows them to perhaps think of themselves as being in the movie. So it's like going on stage in the movie, and it's been a very successful tourist attraction where you see things, but arguably your memories are partly about this place and partly about The Hobbit, the movie itself. This is an interesting one. This is in China. And so in China, there are many small villages, each with their own culture and history. And in one of them, it was actually near the Three Gorges Dam in central China, they created a tour of this village as like a film. So the film had a series of different scenes in it. And the first scene of the movie, as you enter this gorge, this place where the village is, there's a woman on a boat in the middle of a small lake, and she's singing and waving to you. And you can hear this music, and the music or the song tells the story of how the men in the village in the past used to go down the river, often for 6 months or this was the song that the villagers would sing as the men were leaving. So it's a wonderful example of using the cultural history of a place, but it's bringing it alive and making it into an experience for a person. So it's they do it through a woman singing goodbye to her husband with this traditional song. Very, very memorable. But you can create experiences in many ways. And this is what I mean by doing, not seeing. So you can tell people about how people cooked food in the past, or you can actually get the people, the tourists, to do it, to actually make some food, and that brings this activity alive and makes it more memorable. Oh, this was interesting. So recently I've been to China again, and in this village, it's a theme park, but they have a series of different pieces of entertainment, where you can go and see this attraction, that attraction, that attraction. And one of the ones that they've got now is called Matchmaker. And what they do is they have a sort of a stage, and with a celebrity, a person who is a traditional famous matchmaker. And what he does is he introduces a man to a woman so that they can potentially become married. Wow. So, and this has become incredibly popular. So you think, if you're thinking about an experience which is emotional and entertaining and very human orientated, you might be thinking about seeing two people being matched up and talked about. That could be very interesting for people. And this happens, every Saturday. People go along and they see this show, but it's a show which is sort of like a real reality show. And that is involving for people. That's engagement. It allows people to think about their own relationships and also to participate in seeing a man and a woman develop their relationship. Very interesting. In Australia, we have lots of traditional Aboriginal cultural experiences. And again, so usually these things are done in small groups, and you have a person demonstrating how to, some of the traditional practices, but there is this interaction. So in the bottom picture, you see the tour person has painted clay in the markings of the local people. So that's engaging. It's interaction rather than just seeing it. You become part of this activity. And legends of the Aboriginal people, which is very interesting. Here's me practicing my identity as an explorer in Oman. So this was meeting some local business people, and it was fascinating. I felt that I was not just a visitor. I felt that I was accepted, so I was having an authentic experience, and I was like an explorer, seeing, perhaps living some sort of movie in my head. So I think that was there are some very good ones. This was in a local museum. Where was it?
It's Misfat Abri
Yeah, that's right.
in Misfat.
Wonderful. Really enjoyed it. That was the beginning of me getting dressed up in strange clothes all the time. Taif. So Taif in Saudi Arabia, they grow roses for perfume, but they have also used the roses as a tourist attraction, and you go and sit down in this seat, and they pour roses on top of you. So that's not just seeing roses. Some way it's participating or being involved in this activity, which is about roses being poured over your head. So as an example of moving from sightseeing, seeing things, to somehow being involved in a unique experience. This is in Australia. This is a big monolithic rock called Uluru. And what they've done at night is they have put all these lights in front of this rock. And so when you go and see it, you see the sky alive and the lights below. And then what you do is you have dinner, you have some food outside among these lights as the sun sets over the rock. A very interesting and unique experience, which illustrates the difference between sightseeing and experience. Sorry, this was the Chinese marriage broker. Yeah, so this is where the celebrity matches men and women. And interestingly, if you look, most of these people are young people. And they love this, seeing the matchmaker and the man and the woman talking. And interestingly, it's very easy and cheap to produce as a experience. So how do you think about experiences? How do you think about developing an experience? Well, the first thing is to make observations of people doing, having the experience as it stands at the moment, or maybe just doing something. And you might, what you're looking for is what makes them laugh or smile. anything which is related to displays of emotion and a positive emotion, and examples where they're telling stories to other people about what they found. Those things, if they provide the ideas about potential experiences that you could develop, because these displays are showing that people are doing something that's interesting. You might want to interview people. This was, hopefully this will come through, Hafid. This is an interview I did in with this lady in Taif. Let's see.
I don't know why the sound is not clear.
Okay, so that was an example of an. Could you hear that, Hafid?
Actually, no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so this woman was explaining about how she comes to Taif many times, and but there are not many activities, especially new activities for her to do, and she wants things for women to do, not having a coffee shop, but something which is more active and unique or novel. Okay. So she was a wonderful person to interview. This was a qualitative interview where she was basically saying, I want unique experiences and things to do. And she gave some suggestions about the type of experiences that you could develop. So those sort of interviews can be very useful for developing experiences. Uh, um, just another thing to think about when you're thinking about experiences is that we are having experiences now. Um, everything you do is an experience, but most of the things you never remember. So most experiences are experienced subconsciously and you don't really think about them much. So in order to move an ordinary experience, having a cup of coffee or seeing some sights, into something extraordinary, you need to excite people. You need to arouse them. You need to produce some emotion. And those are the things that lead to memorable experiences. You can study experiences, even virtual experiences in the laboratory, but you need some specific equipment. But certainly, if you can measure how interested or how much people pay attention, how much they find something novel and surprise by using some sorts of psychophysiological equipment. But as I say, that takes a little bit of work to do. So I've talked a little bit about types of experiences. But the key thing that you want to do is to develop experiences, and that's sort of separate. So what we want is innovation in the experience space. So you need to know all those things that I've talked about and find some type of thing to develop, but then you need to be able to do it in terms of a big leap, a completely new product, or you can think about it in terms of incremental change. And so perhaps, you might want to think about developing your experience in a series of incremental steps. As they say, you don't have to be, if you're being chased by a bear, if you're trying to run a business and you want to get ahead, you don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be better than the second person, because the second person gets eaten by the bear. So this brings me to think about the competencies that you need to develop an experience. Usually experiences are done or developed in a team, in a group. And that group, maybe the people in the group have some specific expertise which complements each other. So that's about collaboration between the researchers and the managers of the business that you're helping to develop an experience. Certainly, you need to be creative. You need to be able to think about something unique and novel that you can do. Of course, there's very little that's new and novel in the world, and perhaps you can get ideas by looking online or at similar types of products, but try and be as creative as you can. Increasingly, people are using technology, and so this is again, it's a little bit different from thinking about the design of experience, and it's thinking about what do you know about your customers. So when I started work, this is in 1980, so I'm an old man. I started working in a bank or a building society in Queensland in Australia, and at that time there was the banks had lots of knowledge about their customers. They knew how much money they had. They knew if there was a loan. They knew where they lived. They knew. They had lots of information, but it was only used for operational things. For example, they would use it to process a transaction. You would put money into your account or you'd take it out. They'd use your home address to mail you your statement. And all this data wasn't collated. But later, one of my jobs was to try and look at all this information and see how you could develop special offers that would allow you to sell more product to the customers you already had. Now, to me, I think tourism is a little bit like that now. When a tourist comes, we actually get to know them pretty well. We know about we might know about their address, how old they are, what they like, what sort of activities they undertake, how much they spend. But all that information is not collated and often not used to send another offer to them. So one of the opportunities for developing experiences, because you need to know about that customer and what they like, you have to think, well, how can I collect this information in a way that allows me to design an experience for that one person? Tour guides do this a lot, but they do it individually for the Google has got lots of information about customers. They know they call these data points, and they have these types of information about 1 billion people. So they know what videos they've taken, the music they've listened to, they know about the searches they've done and where they live and so on. And so if you could use this information to find out what visitors want and create an experience for them, that to me is the future. That's what experiences will look like in future. And it will involve direct digital marketing where you identify targets for your experiences in terms of what type of person they are. Are they explorers or are they different types? And then you communicate directly to them based on your knowledge of who those people are. I don't think many people in tourism do this now. Perhaps the cruise ships, perhaps some tour operators do it, but it's not common. Okay, so what are some suggestions? Innovate and innovate in order to increase the value for the customer of your experience. And do this through involving the customer, getting them doing things rather than just seeing. So in many countries, such as Indonesia, you have this traditional cloth, okay? And you go into a souk or a market, and there's thousands of these individual pieces of cloth, and they're undifferentiated. So how can we add value to the cloth? Well, we can make it into clothing, and then we can actually get people to wear the clothing. And the wearing the clothing generates additional tour income. Or it's me in wearing clothing in Indonesia and in Oman. Or perhaps we can have cloth which has to be made through weaving. And we first of all, we demonstrate it, and then we produce a weaving class where the tourist is actually involved in making something. Or traditional cloths has to be dyed, colored. And so you have dyeing classes where you learn how to make dye or learn the story of the woman who made the dye. And then you can take your traditional cloth and make it contemporary, into contemporary designs or even into art products. So this might cost you, I don't know, $10, and this could cost you $1,000 as a souvenir, but more than a souvenir, as a art product. But anyway, there's lots of different ways of adding experiences to your traditional products to increase value and tourism. This was a good one. Again, this was in a hotel. So this hotel in China, this man is dressed as a traditional salesman. All days he would go around selling things to local people. And what they've done is they've got this man now dressed up, and he sells things to tourists in the hotel. And he talks to the tourists and gives them suggestions about things they might like to do. Very interesting experience. But you could also introduce perhaps themes which are becoming popular with tourists. Many these days they talk about authentic experiences. What I think they're talking about is a search for meaning. For me to see something authentic means that I have had something meaningful. I've done something important. or wellness, giving visitors an opportunity to either improve their spiritual side or their physical side through lots of massages or so on. Wildlife is very interesting these days, seeing animals, or in fact interacting with them in some way, in a sustainable way, and telling people stories. But the point is, there's 1,000 of these ideas. You need to not just come up with them. They should be things which you can test fairly easily to see if they're working before you develop your new experience. And the other thing, another suggestion would be to try and work on developing this relationship with a customer before they arrive somehow, and use technology. So developing innovation requires competencies in a number of areas. You need to be innovative. You need to have good marketing knowledge, perhaps knowledge of psychology and technology. These things create. So what do you do next? How do you, if you want to develop an experience, and you should be, what do you do? Well, you have to find tourism businesses that want to be innovative. Not all tourism businesses do. So in Australia, we did this once we put an advertisement in the newspaper. We said, we want to work with innovative tourism businesses. And those businesses applied to us, and we interviewed them. And those people who seemed to have the money and the motivation to actually do something innovative, we worked with. So you don't try and work with everyone, because a lot of people don't care. Second, you need to work in a team, and you especially need people who are creative, people in the arts, or people who know about music, or people who know about design, or people who know about entertainment. You need some content experts. So if you're thinking about a heritage and you're working with a heritage hotel in Nizwa, you need someone who knows a little bit about heritage hotels. You need some people who can do research with customers, especially qualitative research, trying to get and understand how people are thinking, and you need the operational business people to help you implement it. So who develops innovative experiences? You do, not me. I can give you all the advice you like, but at the end of the day, some smart masters and I hope that this has given you some ideas on how to do it. So thank you very much, and I'll finish there.
Thank you very much, Prof. Noel, and we highly appreciated your knowledge as well as your wisdom you have mentioned there in your lectures. So now we will start with opening the floor for people to ask questions. So if anyone has any question, please raise your hand, and then inshallah will allow you to talk and ask your question. So Aisha, you have raised your hand. Okay, let me see. Dr. Amina, okay. Dr. Amina she's from the Ministry of Heritage and Tourism. I hope I'm correct. Dr. Amina?
What's your question, Amina?
Dr. Amina, you can, I think now, can you unmute yourself? I allow you to. Could you please unmute?
Can you hear?
Yeah, yes, now we can hear. Dr. Amina?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Hafal, and thank you very much, Professor Noel, for your very informative presentation and talk. and it's really very interesting. I'm Amina Al-Blushi from Ministry of Heritage and Tourism. I am the advisor of research and study for the minister.
Wow, what a great job.
Thank you very much. I'm very interested really in the subject. It's very important for us to understand how to develop experiences for the tourist. And my question is about what is more important? Is it to understand what is the requirement and the values of the customer itself, or the priority is to understand how to develop the place itself? So
please go on.
Yeah, Oman, or as I see, maybe Oman, mainly on heritage and cultural tourist attraction, as well environmental products, can offer environmental products. But when I see the tourists, from especially the regional tourists, they are not very interested in this product. This is my observation. So I feel they are looking for activities, different activities, which sometimes doesn't match with the sensitivity of the place, of the environmental sensitivity of the place, or this is the main issue.
Answer.
So I don't know if my question is clear for you, Professor.
No, I understand. What you're talking about is how there are different groups or segments of tourists coming to Oman, and those people who are perhaps from the region, maybe they have been to Oman before. And so for those people, they are looking for something unusual outside the range of things that Oman offers to the people who come for the first time.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so Oman has got beautiful and amazing cultural heritage attractions. Nizwa Fort, the but the issue is, how do you get people in the regional area? So as an analogy, in Australia, we have theme parks. We don't have really major cultural attractions, but we have theme parks like Movie World or something. And what these people, and those attractions primarily target local people. So people within a 2-hour drive of the attraction, perhaps some interstate people, but they don't really get a lot of international visitors. So for those people, the attractions have a strategy of creating a new major ride or attraction every 18 months. So they are continually reinvesting to get local or regional people to come back. Okay. Now, that segment has a different sort of profile or need to the people who are from Europe, for whom anything in Oman is unusual, and we're seeing the mountains and the desert is such an unusual thing that that's their experience. So you've got you've got two different segments: the international people who want to see the uniqueness, culture, and heritage, and nature of the place, and then you've got the regional people for whom you need to develop new attractions, and how you manage that. I mean, so as long as you know those requirements for local people, or for the regional market, sometimes events are used because you can do something new for a short period of time without having to make a big investment in new infrastructure. So events are good. Or you have, you know, a program of thematic attractions of some type, or but they would be what I would call the small innovations. If you want to talk about the big innovation, you're really talking about a new market segment or a new attraction for the market segment. And so it could be somehow creating more awareness of ecotourism for and whale watching or turtle viewing during those times. So the first thing is to segment. Segmentation, targeting, that is, now who do we want to target and who's more likely to come, and then product or experience design and positioning. So and then you come into what I was talking about, which is the hows of meeting the needs of those visitors. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
And I suspect for the regional market, probably you get a lot of families.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, well, what type of experiences can we develop which are going to be really interesting for the family market? And because the family market wants this idea of bonding and closeness, but also seeing something unique. And it's got to be attractive to the young people. So, top of my head, brainstorming. Maybe you have a Sinbad the Sailor experience. Huh?
Yes.
Targeting young people. Anyway, so I could go on, but just ideas.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amina. And we have also
ask me some more questions.
We have a question from Harith. Harith, I think he's from National Museum. Okay, let me allow him to talk. Harith?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Harith.
Hi, Harith. Yes.
Hi. Thank you, Professor, for the information. My question is just direct. It's really simple. I mean, you've been talking about The Hobbit and the designing of film tourism experiences. Now in Oman, I would say most people consume movies and TV shows. You know, they're all on Netflix and HBO and stuff. But what would be the challenge in designing a tourism experience in a country like Oman, where we don't have many movie sets, especially blockbuster movie sets? What would be the biggest challenge in that?
Well, yeah. So, in Australia, people have specifically created movies as part of promotion. So, I don't know if you remember, there was a movie called, that's a long time ago, called Crocodile Dundee. Crocodile Dundee was a movie about the outback of Australia. And to some extent, it was designed to attract Americans to come to Australia. And the second movie in the series was set in America. So it was about creating awareness and interest in coming to Australia, and then leading perhaps to people visiting the sites that were seen in the movies. These things are very influential, but of course you need the movie. The alternative is you can sort of think perhaps of a legend or a myth as like that. So, you know, in Indonesia, they will tell the story of the woman who married the prince and she eventually dived into the water and became this creature. And so in some way that's about creating, telling a story, making a film in people's heads using the cultural and heritage. Or another way of saying it, linking into symbols. So a movie just creates awareness of particular places and creates a symbol that people think, oh, that's important, I want to go and see that. So the same principle, you may have already have those things, those symbols that people want to see, but they're just not in a film. For example, as I said, just taking as an example, Sinbad the Sailor, right? Now, when I was a boy, I read a story in a book about Sinbad the Sailor, and he had adventures and he had a gold thing and a sword and stuff. Now, in a sense, Sinbad the Sailor is sort of, well, has been a film, but is can be something that people might want to do in a sense like a film, but it's not the promotion of it or how they learnt about it is not through a film, but through a story that they read in a book. So you could look through your museum, perhaps, or your literature, and find those stories that you think you can promote or develop or link to Oman more. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another question that's written by, I think, Dr. Masuma. Dr. Masuma, can you ask the question directly, or do you want me to ask the question? Dr. Masuma. Let me allow you to.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
good morning.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Masuma. Thank you.
Prof. Noel, thank you very much for your informative talk, and Dr. Hafid, thanks for moderating this session. I have two questions. The first one is, Prof. Noel, what do you think about people on social media? You know that they are all the time recording and taking photo of the places they visit. Do you think that they are really or truly having a meaningful tourism experience? This is the first question. The second one, in your discussion also, you've mentioned the importance of the previous visit. So how can we design a new experience for the tourists each time they visit the same place? Like if I visit, let's say, Nazwa, like first time, second time, third time, how we can design a new experience?
Okay, so both very good questions. Thank you. The first one, so you got are people who are looking at or doing influencing and promoting a place, and the people who go there, are they having a meaningful experience? Well, I would argue yes, but come back to what those people want. Those people, I think, are consuming those videos because their goal is to be trendy and to know new do new things and to be able to talk to their friends about things which are new and innovative and have what they might call conversational currency. They're worth when you talk about them, your friends pay attention to you. So I do think that the purpose of these things, they have a purpose. They are meaningful, but probably they're not meaningful in the same way as being authentic and cultural, having meaning from the authentic culture of a place. They have meaning for the person viewing them or creating them through their trendiness and impact on their friends. So they're all experiences and they have meaning for people, but the meaning that people get is wide and varied, and there are many different types of things which are meaningful to people. Meaning, all meaningful means is it's important to me. Okay. And so, well, we could discuss this. This is a big debate about what authenticity means and things. Some people say authenticity means it has a historic value and is unique. And other people say authenticity means something that is relevant to me and my identity. So I would argue that these sort of, for younger people who want to have social credibility and social impact among their friends, these sort of trendy things have some meaning. The second one, I've forgotten. What was that? You'll have to remind me. I'm sorry, I get so enthusiastic. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. What was the second question?
The second question is how we can design a new experience for tourists each time they visit the same place.
Yeah, it's a problem. So this is about economics, and how much, how many people come and how many people are repeating and how much money you can get from repeat visitors. Okay. As I was saying, in theme parks, they do it by making a major new ride every 18 months. That would be like, well, for example, I think in investment, it looks like. Now, that you may think of that as creating a reason for people to come back to Nizwa. But those sort of things are very expensive. What you need is something that is unique and interesting that you can develop with the minimum of capital investment. Okay. And as I said, typically one way that destinations do this is through events, sporting events, camel riding, markets, and so on, or music and other types of entertainment, cultural activities and things. So, many places many destinations have a event manager whose job it is to develop a sequence of events of different types to attract people back to the place. So I know I saw in as I mentioned, I was in Taif recently. In Taif, they have a series of major events: the Rose Festival, the Camel Festival, this festival, regularly during the peak season of tourists. So that's how they would do it. I don't find those are sort of broad events. I don't find them particularly interesting, but maybe they'll get people from the surrounding areas back to Taif. you could do something like that.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masuma. I have a question related to that before going to Manal and Saud and Saraya. Dr. Noor, you know that we have well-experienced tourists visiting Oman. They have already visited some of the Arab Middle East countries. And to some extent, we provide to some extent similar to their experience, like the Camel, Bedouin, and also we have to some extent similar culture. So how to satisfy this group and how to create really experience different from the experience that they see in, our neighbor's country. This is, I think it's very challenging for us.
Yeah. One of the things that they're doing in Saudi, they're doing a lot of work along the coastline, the Red Sea coast, diving and other things. I think that Oman has a long coastline that is not particularly maybe accessible or developed so the ocean side of things. And as an example, I was looking when I was in Indonesia recently, I went on a liveaboard boat and we went out and sailed around and lived on board for a couple of days. And I saw that there are lots of boat trips and some of them go to your northern province, but I couldn't see any liveaboards, right? They all seem to be day trips. So just as an example, I think if you think about the history of Oman, it's a maritime country, right? And there is a boat building industry in Sur.
Yeah.
But how do I see it? Where is it? And what are the right? So the marine side, I think, has got, you've started to look at turtles. There may be whales, I don't know, but and maybe the ocean is not quite maybe it's too rough or something, but there must be some sort of marine experiences that you could develop, which may be different to other parts. So there are some elements of Oman's history which are quite different, especially in that marine side. But I don't know, if you look, you'll find the other places. In some ways, in other places like Morocco or those, they have developed the city side of it, the Medinas and the shopping and all that sort of stuff. And they are looking at the redevelopment of villages and places to stay. I do think that Oman has a dramatic landscape, mountains and things, although there's a lot of that along the Saudi Arabian coast again. But I'm not sure. So I don't know, but you got to look for it, and there will be things. History or prehistory, not a lot of that in other Arabian countries, although they're starting to develop places like Petra and things. So something that's so this is where you might do an audit. You'll be looking for things that have some wow appeal, strongly connected to Oman. And as I said, boats, one. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I could think of that in 5 minutes. You spend time on it, and you think the culture, the oral traditions are similar in many of the Gulf countries. So I'm not sure if there's anything there. Food, similar. So maybe, yeah, I'm not sure.
Thank you. No, I will have a question. Manal, do you have a question? You have raised your hand. Manal?
So just one follow-up, Hafid,
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah.
You know, the other thing is you don't have to be different. You
Yeah.
just have to be the best, right?
Yeah.
So if you offered the things that are in other Arab countries, but did it in the best way,
Yeah.
well, that's another way to think about it.
Yeah, because I have seen that, you know, copy and paste, they copy the ideas from their other countries and they did it in other countries to some extent.
Oh, sure. And that's one of the problems of tourism.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to copy experiences.
Okay, so Manal, okay, now we move to Saud. Saud is our master student. Saud.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hafid. Thank you, Professor also Noel, for this fruitful lecture today. And in your lecture, Professor, you mentioned about innovation, and these things what I believe it a lot by innovation. Here, my question: how we can use the technology to implement a unique design experience in here in Oman, and put in your hand also we have a lot of heritage places which has challenging to implement such technology on it, and also it's self investment by some partnership. It's not involving by even the government or any government investment on it.
Sorry, I missed a bit of that.
Yeah. How we can use the technology to implement the unique experience design. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of debate and, you know, push to use virtual reality or, you know, augmented reality as the form of technology. I think to some extent that takes away from the place. So you're either involved in the place or you're involved in the technology. And the more you're involved in the technology, you're less involved in the history and heritage or the ambience of the place. That said, technology, I mean, for example, I've seen technology being used in Nizwa Fort to demonstrate how traditional dyes were made. So that's just a film, but it's a way of providing information to visitors about things which they can't see easily in what, you know, in that place, which are connected to it, like is it indigo dye? I think, I'm not sure.
Yes, exactly.
So they had someone showing that dyeing.
Yeah.
So technology can be used sort of like film. Eventually, of course, you know, once artificial intelligence and some technology comes along, you'll be getting, you'll be driving along the road and your phone will give recommendations about the history and heritage of the places on either side and tell you a story. And so we're sort of at the beginning of the integration of technology into the travel experience itself, right? At the moment, it's being used, you know, in the bookings and the promotion, and some of the in-hotel functions. But I do like the idea of being able to provide suggestions to tourists of things to do in the area that the visitor may not have thought about. So you might call those push messages to visitors, but I'm not sure how that technology works. But that would be a good thing, you know. You're in Nizwa. Have you heard that the coffee shop down the road offers traditional coffee or something? That doesn't appear to be available. And then augmenting stories. So with Hafid, we visited a wonderful attraction where they demonstrated cooking in the traditional times. What was the name of that place?
Beit al-Safa. Beit al-Safa house in Al-Hamra.
And so that was good that it was live and interactive, but you could sort of expand on that by having other things for people to learn about, perhaps based on technology, or you know, other sort of ways for people to learn about history in that place, or in museums. You know, I think there are in many museums there are these voice voice recordings where you go around and you see all the things they tell you a little bit about. I think they could be much better done by, you know, really telling people interesting and emotional stories about different objects rather than just the impact of a museum trip might be good.
Thank you, Prof. Noor. And we have another question from Sraya. Sraya, she's also our master student and she's working in the Ministry of Heritage and Tourism. Okay, Sraya, can you
hear me, Doctor?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Professor, for this unique lecture. As we know, we have a lot of beautiful sites in Oman, but sometimes it's not easy to reach this site based on geological difficulties or a lot of reasons. So my question is, do you think this access difficulties can be a part of the experience, or we should only focus on the experience offered on the site itself? I mean, should we improve the accessibility of the site, or we can add it as a part of the experience you want to provide for the tourist?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is about time. So accessibility really means how much time does it take you to get there and how comfortable it is. So accessibility, so if you have something where you will take a day to access and the visitor is only staying 4 days in Oman, then the value time equation means they probably won't spend 1 day getting there and 1 day getting back out of 4 days. So if places are more remote, generally you need more time, and you're talking about either high value people who can afford to pay that amount, or people with more time. People are going to spend more time in the country. And so in Australia, when you're dealing with things like this, they might have a central location, a town where they have information about those more remote places and how to access them and information and maybe, what you can do there. And especially perhaps for safety, where you can record if you're going and in the police are informed if you're not back. So safety is an issue. And then target, so that would be more for the general market. And then depending upon the strength of the attraction, what is it that people are going to spend a day traveling to see? Is it that who are these people that are going to do it? Are they specialists, people who are archaeologists or have a strong interest in the particular wildlife you can see? So there's a lot of factors that you'd have to think about in terms of the design of the product and how to access it, which are related to how much money it's going to cost you to upgrade the road or to fly people in or whatever, and how big the market is. Generally, I think it's good to provide some sort of central point. They in Australia, they call them visitor centres and things, which service information. But if it's very far, then you are talking about like a expedition type tour. And for those people, the road might be part of the trip, I suppose. Does that make sense? I don't think I gave you an answer.
Yes, Professor. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sulaim, I don't know what you mean. Can you give us example, like you mean Jabal Shams or Wadi Bani Auf, or which area you might mean as?
Yeah, I wouldn't think Jebel. I'm not talking about Jebel Shams. I'm talking about so some desert sands near the Saudi border, which are going to take you a day to get to.
Yeah. Thank you, Suraya. Thank you, Prof. Noor. Badr, I think. Badr has a question. Badr Said. Badr? I don't know. Okay, so last question. So do you have raised your hand?
So just again, just on back, I always have these, just back on the last question.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to say is that none of the problems or issues in Oman are unique.
Yeah.
There are people in different destinations or countries who have already dealt with all these issues. Okay.
Yeah.
So the more you can look for examples in other countries or talk to people, you will find a solution, right? And so don't ever think that you're the first person who's got to solve this problem. There will be people out there who can give you advice. Either World Tourism Organization or someone, they will have experts, or someone you can talk to about them.
Thank you very much. So do you have another question? So I have seen you raising your hand again. Okay, so I think now we need to, unfortunately, we have to end up this session. Thank you very much, Prof. Noor, for your time and for accepting our invitation and also for your time. And we highly appreciate the informative session and the insightful knowledge and wisdom that you have provided to us. Thank you very much. Also, I would like to thank all the attendees who attended this workshop. And thank you again. I don't know when we're going to meet again. So maybe we'll have another session maybe in the coming month, inshallah. So thank you very much.
So Dr. Hafid, so I'd be very, so we had people from government interested in developing experiences.
Yeah.
We've had some students who are interested in doing some stuff. I think it's a great opportunity to come up with some trial projects,
Yeah.
And don't think that you're going to change the world.
Yeah.
Just get some experience in developing and implementing some experiences.
Cases.
Right?
Yeah.
And if
So-
you could, don't just think about it as a intellectual exercise or a report. Think about actually doing something and creating something.
Yeah.
If you can do that, it'll be great for the students, and it will actually develop some of this competencies that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think Prof. Noor, you have like editorial series, I think, about bridging the gap between the industry as well as
well, there are not mine, but I've been involved in a couple of webinar series.
Yes.
Where they do this, and so that's something else that you could do, where you could talk to some of these organizers. I can give you there, and you can do another with some other countries or some other people. Do you know?
Yeah.
Or you can organize one of your own. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah? Oman becomes the center of tourism experience design. In the world.
Yes, inshallah, with the help with all these Omanis, inshallah, as well as with the support from the Ministry of Heritage and Tourism. Yes, why not, inshallah. And we have actually, when we have the Ministry of Heritage and Tourism, when they design the new, marketing, they call it Experience Oman. So they have, and also we have dedicated website. It's called Experience Oman. So they are moving to the experience way of creating this type of experience for tourists.
Good.
So thank you again, Prof. Noor. Thank you for your time, as well as thank you for all the.
Can I add question, please?
Okay, so last question was this one.
I think Sean Saud, because I was using his account since I think 2 years back, and I tried my best to change it to my name, but I couldn't since the beginning of the webinar.
Okay,
I'm sorry
so
for
go
that.
ahead. Okay.
First of all, thank you both of you for the amazing seminar and webinar, let's say. It was really wonderful, knowledgeable one, and experienced well. Just a quick questions. Professor, I would like just to ask you from your own perceptions, what do you think that the locals themselves, you encourage them to start implementing this designing for experiences and for their own area, or they need the support from the government itself, or the collaboration is the best way for them? Because, some locals, they are not aware enough about the challenges which they might face in the future while they start implementing and designing the experience for the visitors, even if those are locals or from outside the country, internationally.
Okay, so, well, getting locals involved is wonderful. The only thing I say to people is, at the end of the day, tourism is a business, right? And so what I would like to know is how the probably considerable effort that local people are going to put in is going to provide a return on investment. So how are they going to, so we are talking not just about doing things because we're nice. I would like you to think about doing things because you'll make money from them. Well, that said, there are some types of things which are done for community spirit, but you've got to have your objectives clearly set. So involve local people, get them to do it, but perhaps try and direct them to thinking about how to make money from it rather than just do it because they have an interest.
Crystal clear. So I think the involvement would be better, because if they will own something from the business or from the designed experience there, so they will be satisfied instead of making an argument with the government itself. And again,
so the more you, for me, the purposes of tourism is to benefit local people. And that means that money from tourism has to go to local people. But that means that the local people have to want to be involved and run a business or something. So how you encourage that, I don't know. But the more you can, the more I think vibrant and local and authentic your tourism industry is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Noor. I think there's no another question from the audience. Okay, Prof. Noor, we highly appreciated your time and your efforts and your wisdom and knowledge. So, inshallah, we will contact you again for
Please
other
do.
session, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And have a nice evening. I know it's already evening. It's 12.
There are some kangaroos
Okay,
eating
lucky.
grass just over there.
Lucky
Okay.
you. Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Thank you. And thank you everyone for attending this session.